This is Earth, and monsters have invaded the world. Ghidorah and his army of titan-sized kaiju are causing death and destruction around every corner. I have been given only 100 days by Captain General Quark to restrain or defeat these kaiju before they choose to simply nuke the entire planet. I have no idea how these kaiju got here, but I will do everything I can to stop them and save my planet. So I ran into our teleporter to spawn in the sanctuary, where for some reason I lost all my armor and equipment. So I began to make my way into the city, and I need some new tools. Oh crap, that's a raptor. I continued to make my way into the city, grabbing an explorer note and crafting chibis for experience, tools for resources, and destroying the lampposts for supplies. I mean, it's extinction. Dinosaurs don't need lights. Before jumping on a horse to begin taming it, which got ruined in the morning by defense units, so I gave up on that. Imagine the horse dies at like 93% or something. That'd be so sad. Oh no! Screw the horse. Don't care about the horse anymore. I definitely need to get better prepared before a kaiju shows up, as the city has been really quiet so far. I killed a dodo and cooked it up to recover some health before setting up my basic box house to end off the day. It was day 3 when I was simply harvesting some stone, only to accidentally hit an enforcer that promptly murked me. Stupid robot. If only I still had my Jaeger from the warship. I proceeded to take out my frustration on a nearby piggy who I harvested for some meat to end off the day. On day 5 I ended up tranking out a stego as I'd be needing a bunch of berries for resources, who I decided to name Stegenold once he tamed up, and proceeded to spend the rest of the day harvesting berries to make more tranks. Stegenold and I also killed a nearby diplo for more meat, as well as tranked out an Anki that fell asleep in the morning of day 6. Proceeded to commit some vandalism by breaking the benches and tables for the crystal, and the Anki is about to be awake. Look at the little sleepy boy. When my Anki tamed up, so I named him Frankie the Anki. And in the morning, I tranked out a Terra before killing a turtle for its keratin, named the Terra Pthor, and then using Pthor began to rob a bunch of beavers. I used Stegenold to kill that enforcer who messed me up earlier, just so I'd have my revenge, before flying out on Pthor as I needed an Argentavis. So I set up my trap in the morning before leading in the pigeon, tranked it out, shoved in my meat, and it became my friend. Gave her the name of Sergeant before heading back to my base. I have no idea where the kaiju are at the moment, but I need to be prepared for when I come across them. So I need to rank up in experience, and the easiest way to do that is with a note run, or in my case, a note fly. As I used Pthor to fly, collecting a bunch of notes that gave me a huge experience boost. Then on day 10, once I was a nice high level, I found this rooftop terrace that I decided would become my future operating base. So I placed down some foundations to claim the spot, as these videos are recorded on a server that I host for my patrons and Discord. So if you want to come and help me defeat the kaiju horde, join my Discord using the link in the video description. Once I got home, I crafted up a full set of black, as well as saddled up my Argent before proceeding to collect everything I needed to make a trap, as I wanted to eventually get myself some manners and snow owls. Before in the morning, flying off towards the snow biome, as here on Extinction there are these biodomes that were designed to try and save Earth and regenerate life. I eventually set up my trap before leading in a snow owl, tranking it out, shoving in my meat, taming it up, naming it Enticeive, and trapping it in a snowball. This snow owl will come in handy for my plan to get infinite loot. Once I got home on day 13, I saddled up the snow owl and flew off into the wasteland, where I came across the entrance to the sunken forest, where I began to search for gacha. Now gacha are super useful, as they can generate gacha crystals that give you resources and loot, and snow owls, well, their vomit is the kibble for gacha. Yeah, some interesting dietary choices. I tamed up the gacha before heading out the forest. That's when I saw some remaining army troops making their way across the bridge in the distance. These soldiers must have just been enlisted and were making their way to the battlefield of today's sponsor. Enlisted is a World War II multiplayer shooter game that you can play on PC, Xbox, PlayStation for absolutely free, with a strong focus on historical authenticity, while still having always-on action and dynamic gameplay. You can take on large-scale combat with dozens of soldiers and vehicles, or go into the campaigns and play your part in the Battle for Moscow, Invasion of Normandy, and many more on the way. Take part with your squad or friends, or simply jump in a random awesome team multiplayer game on your mission to become the best soldier. Now, Enlisted has given me an awesome deal that you can get for free by downloading Enlisted now using the link in the video description, and you'll get 3 days premium and several orders for troops and weapons. Best of luck on the battlefield. I flew off in the morning of day 15 with everything on my Argent to start setting up at my new base location, and that's when I saw it down below me. A category 5 Jaeger that had been deployed by the commander years ago to stop these kaiju, only for them to get corrupted and turn on everything, even their drivers. I continued to set up my base using stegenol to harvest some trees for more wood. As I was doing another trip back to collect my equipment from my starter shack, I ended up spotting Callisto, a massive kaiju bear that can summon in hundreds of minions to fight at its side. I grabbed the rest of my stuff, and with good timing too, as a Rex and one of Callisto's minions had arrived, destroying the rest of my home. Once I got home in the morning, I unloaded the Argent and then headed off to Greenob as I heard that a massive kaiju had been spotted. Godzilla. Now that is a hulking beast. I wonder if I could tame him someday. I spent the rest of the day harvesting some chitin from a snail, as well as setting up my gachas that I had tamed to begin providing me with loot, as I would need much better equipment to handle any of these kaiju. Hopefully I can get in contact with the main ship soon to send me some more equipment. I flew off in the morning of day 18 carrying Frankie in order to do a metal run, as well as killing off some of these defense droids for their resources. I also spent some time often fighting some of the corrupted creatures that swarm the wastelands. I chose to kidnap a Dode in the morning, as in order to feed my gacha I would need a ton of stone. I did just need to heal him up with my snarl and began to trank him out. I'm dead. Ow, I really should have watched my step. I began to run to at least get somewhere safe while I figured out how to get home, before remembering I had a Pthor in my pockets and used her to fly back up to the base. But the Dode was no longer there. I eventually found a new Dode who I was able to kidnap, stick in a box in my base and trank out. And he was finally tamed in the morning, so I named him Doug from Wish, saddled him up, and we went to gather a ton of stone, using my sickle to harvest up a ton of fiber, my pick to gather a ton of flint, before flying out on Sergeant at the end of the day, as I need to get myself a stronger tame. I managed to find, trank and tame a Rex on day 23, but the kaiju swarm seemed to be increasing day by day. Giant scorpions were ravaging the wastelands, huge bears terrorizing the city, and Godzilla shaking the earth with every step. I need to find where Ghidorah, the king of the kaiju, has taken refuge, as well as get our top tier Jaeger, Mecha Godzilla, back under my control, as last I heard he was roaming through the wastelands. And it was day 25, and I really wanted to get myself an ice-breathing jumping cat, also known as a managana. So I flew off towards the snow dome, even passing Kaitan, a category 5 kaiju that is extremely deadly, eventually making it to the snow, where I was able to netgun, trap and trank out a level 270 mana. My Twitch chat decided to name the mana Frostbeard, as yes, these are all streamed live on Twitch, before trapping up the mana and flying off and spotting Behemoth, another category 5 kaiju. I made it out to the snow biome in the morning of day 26 on my way home, where I spotted Callisto, who had somehow made its way up the top of a dang building. Like, how did you even get up there? So I jumped over on Frostbeard and began to turn it into a popsicle when I lost power. Thanks, Escom. I loaded back in and Callisto was gone. I should probably be thankful for that, but I wanted to try and kill it. The next 2 days, I continued my journey out on Frostbeard, killing some carniflora that I could not harvest, as well as enclosing my box around my miniature crafting station. So this should at least keep me safe until I am able to contact the warship and General Quark, which is really strange. I expected them to have made contact by now. In the morning, I set out on Frostbeard to do an element vein. These massive spikes of corruption anger corruptors, causing waves of them to attack. But if you can defend it, you can gather a metric butt ton of element and shards. The creatures were coming in hard and fast, and eventually were just overwhelming me and Frostbeard, so I had to jump out of there. I would be needing something stronger. I really need to get myself a kaiju. or perhaps an imprinted mana. On day 30, I headed into the snow biome in order to tame another banagana so that I could begin breeding them, and also trapped another snow owl who tamed up in the morning. Then I continued slowly moving through the snow biome, gazing upon scorpion kaiju fighting rogue Jaegers, and Fenrir, a category 3 ice wolf kaiju fighting gojiran, one of Godzilla's children who roamed these lands. I did not want to stick around to see who won, as both of these massive beasts could easily destroy me. It was late in the day of day 31 as I found a level 290 male Rex, which is exactly what I needed to begin breeding up and raising an army. So I led it into the trap, even with some difficulty of the corrupted creatures messing with me, began tranking it out only for a rogue Jaeger to discover my plans, climb into the Rex trap and kill it. I eventually found another Rex and trapped it to begin tranking it out when meteors started raining from the sky, giving me a massive flashback to what I can only imagine was an alternate reality where some wizard guy was trying to kill me, but I pushed that out of mind as I continued to trank out the Rex, with thankfully 0 meteors hitting me, and it was finally tamed up. Once I got home, I set up all the things to begin breeding, manas, Rexes, and even the gachas. And while they all got their dirty on, I went to go get my own stone using Sergeant and dug from Wish to whack at all the broken walls and structures. I did bring out my inner loot goblin, harvesting up a tier 5 Jaeger that Callisto and her minions had massacred. I took off again with a freshly raised and imprinted Managana in an attempt at completing an element vein, freezing off many different corrupteds, jumping and leaping, eventually bringing down the final corrupted raptor. I then started the grueling task of whacking all the corrupt tendrils of pure element for their resources. Before finally I got home with all of my goodies on day 38. Now I just have to unlock me some tech grams. I wonder if I can find one of the titans that used to roam Earth. For now though, I set up a regular old generator and aircons to hatch my eggs for a Rex army. Then as the sun was rising on day 39, I came across Titania, a mythical monarch dragon king that summons hundreds of minions to fight alongside it. Now in order to tame it, I need to kill it for its fey relics. So I threw out some Rexes, leveled them, and saddled them before sending them into battle. The Rexes fought valiantly, but one by one, they were slowly trampled, trapped, and killed by the Titania. But Titania had garnered the attention of a tier 5 Jaeger, so I began to use my mana to freeze it to death. In the morning, the Jaeger finally brought down the Titania, giving me 7 fey relics, which is exactly what I needed to begin passive taming a nearby more friendly version of Titania. It took some grappling and parachuting, but finally in the morning it was tamed. This thing is awesome! Not the strongest tame ever, but able to spit acid and fly with a ton of health. It's also my very first kaiju tame, finally! Twitch chat and I decided to name him Lean Charizard. So it was time to test him out, so we flew off to the desert biome in order to fight some kaiju scorpion. Now I can finally start making some progress in this world. On day 42, I took off towards the snow biome, where I actually came across Exonia, the queen of the hive, a huge kaiju reaper that's a friendly passive tame. She wanted some black pearls to be able to tame her, so I set off in search of some high tier corrupteds to kill, as they have a chance to drop the pearls I need. I instead came across Arachne, a giant spider kaiju, who was fighting Callisto. Callisto did squash the spider eventually, which allowed me to jump in and harvest the body, giving me black pearls I needed. Once I got back to Exonia, I was able to begin feeding her the black pearls, and she was finally tamed up the following day. So I was able to trap her up and headed home. Once I got there, I jumped onto her and sprang off my base, only to find Gaia was right there. Gaia is a category 5 insanely powerful kaiju, and she was killing all the minions that Exonia had been able to summon. I even had to whistle away my Lean Charizard, and instead chose to fight something slightly more my levels, and killed a nearby Jaeger. For how easy Exonia is to tame, she is really incredibly powerful. We were out hunting on day 44, fighting corrupteds, kaijus, and even more corrupteds. Exonia might just be my most powerful tame yet. and once I got home, I left Exonia and continued out on my manor, where I spotted an old decommissioned Jaeger. This was Cherno Alpha, a Mark I Russian Jaeger that runs on pure nuclear energy and one of the oldest still around. It looks pretty inactive now, which is such a shame, as I remember this Jaeger being incredibly powerful. Not quite as advanced as Mecha Godzilla, but still able to pack an incredibly mean punch. It was day 45 when I was investigating a massive rib cage, and I saw a skullcrawler. Now this is a powerful kaiju. I actually thought they were extinct, but clearly not. Now they are tameable through sacrifice, so I sent in some Rexes to their death, and one by one the Rexes were killed off, and the skullcrawler was tamed. But a colossus did not like that and began to attack my skullcrawler. I wasn't worried, as I leaped onto the back of the skullcrawler in order to burrow and simply run away. And in the morning of day 47, I came across another new skullcrawler, and I was again able to tame by sacrificing even more Rexes. And now this is where I made an interesting discovery. Once I got home with the new skullcrawlers, I set them up and they are breedable. So I began to breed and collect skullcrawler eggs in order to make an army. On day 48, I took off on a skullcrawler in order to truly test their power by fighting another anti-kaiju Jaeger that did freeze me for a second, but seeing as they're old, malfunctioned, and no longer piloted, it stood no chance. Kind of funny how things change, having gone from being a Jaeger pilot killing kaiju to now riding a kaiju killing Jaegers. Though I did also defeat some kaiju scorpions in the wasteland before fighting colossus in the city, who must have followed me home. Well, crap. I did not realize it could kill me off the skullcrawler. Waking up at the base, I jumped on an Argent and flew off to find the skullcrawler still fighting colossus, so I came back on another one for some backup, eventually working together to kill the colossus. My very first category 4 kaiju kill. They get much stronger than him, so I'm going to have to keep growing my power. And I took off in the afternoon to see if I could find an orbital supply drop, as these are the ultimate way to collect loot on extinction. I eventually came across a supply drop that I began to hack into when suddenly my communications device that had been dead since I got teleported here perked to life with a message. Captain General Quark, sir, it's good to hear—
Shut up, you meddling scoundrel. You're meant to be dead.
Sir, what the—
Are you thick, boy? I sent you to this planet to die to my kaiju, not actually be able to tame them.
So it was—
Of course it was me, you idiot. Now hurry up and die. You don't deserve access to my ship's supply drops.
Well, that certainly explains a lot. But he must not have remembered to disconnect me from the ship's revival system, as he didn't seem to realize that. Either way, I need this equipment, but the drop began to end in waves upon waves of corrupt creatures, and even a wild skullcrawler. I eventually fended off all the creatures, allowing me to break into the drop to get all the equipment, before flying home on Lean Charizard. Now, at least I know who is around all the kaiju running around, but I do have to figure out how he got them all here, and for that, I think I have to find and kill Ghidorah. It was day 51 when I actually stumbled upon Mecha Godzilla, such a powerful Jaeger that went absolutely rogue after running out of batteries. So if I'm able to bring it down and replace the batteries, I might just be able to take control of it and use it against Ghidorah. On day 52, I did some more farming and set up a grinder so I could convert all the loot from my gacha into resources, as well as placing down an industrial forge to smelt up some metal. It was day 54 when I came across a hard supply drop, and I don't care what that general says. I have the rights to the supply drop equipment, even if I do have to fight off hundreds of corrupted creatures in order to get it, which is exactly what I did, eventually completing it in the afternoon, unlocking all of the goodies inside. Now, I just need to get some element. I found a large element vein on day 55 that I proceeded to defend from all the corrupteds, allowing me to harvest a ton of element. I really wanted tech on day 57, having lost my tech gear from the ship due to that idiot general. I'll admit, I missed it. So I headed off to the snow dome where I could find the ice titan. I eventually started making my way down the cave and I really hate Prolovias. I eventually got back to the cave and unfortunately my skullcrawler could not fit. But at least Exonia was able to help me start fighting my way down the cave. It was day 58 when I finally got the artifact of the void, got down to the terminal, and activated the obelisk to begin fighting the Ice Titan. It stood no chance versus my skullcrawlers, and we eventually brought it down to unlock the tech grams I needed. But all that did was piss off the behemoth nearby, who now charged in to attack my skullcrawlers. It eventually died on day 59, and that was my first official category 5 kaiju kill. What an absolute rush. It felt good to be this powerful. And I came across a tech gigamoth on day 60, and this thing is basically a mammoth strider hybrid, and I thought that would be a fantastic tame for resources. So I started hacking into it using reprogrammers, which I eventually completed on day 61, and it was incredibly bad, like a shockingly bad harvester. So that was a huge disappointment. So on day 62, I tranked and tamed a regular gigamoth, who was a massive improvement versus the tech variant, before spending the rest of the day just hanging out at the base. And I was continuing to hang out at my base in the morning of day 63 when I heard a massive roar off in the distance. That must be where Ghidorah is. So I hopped off on my mana to zoom off in order to investigate, and I could see him flying in the distance. He didn't look that scary, but that was up until I started to get a bit closer, and he was massive. By far the biggest kaiju that I had ever seen. I really need to gear up if I am going to be able to kill it and ruin Quark's plans. So I placed down a tech rep in the afternoon of day 64, made myself a tech chest piece, and it felt really good to be able to finally take flight. On day 65, I saw that Godzilla had gotten himself stuck in the city, so I took my opportunity to snipe him with a trank bullet before jumping on my skullcrawler to finish tranking it out, and the big radiated fish lizard was finally asleep. I just needed something that would find appetizing, so I killed some fish and infused each piece with over 100 element to create some atomic fish meat. Fed it to the big guy and he became my friend, Godzilla. Now this is gonna be fun. I chose to name her Natzilla before using her to kill a colossus that was fighting my skullcrawler, and then heading out into the wastelands for a true showing of power. And it was day 66 as Natzilla and I were on an absolute rampage through the wastelands, when yet again we came up on Gaia for her to use her most powerful attack on me, disconnecting. Once I loaded back in, I had of course died, which was fully expected, but now I had to save Natzilla. So I grabbed an army of skullcrawlers and ran off to fight Gaia yet again. As I arrived via parachute, I began to launch out skullcrawlers before charging in to swarm the Gaia. The fight took almost the entire day when Gaia finally fell. It felt good. I wanted to fight the Forest Titan on day 68, and having defeated their stronger cousin, Gaia, I knew this would be a piece of cake. So I traveled over on the skullcrawler to the sunken forest before simply flying down the cave using my jetpack, even if I did throw out Exonia once I had enough creatures following me, grabbed the artifact and summoned in the Forest Titan. It was an epic battle of Natzilla versus Forest Titan, when finally using Natzilla's atomic breath was able to burn down this mutant sapling of a tree. And that was much quicker than Gaia at least. I figured I can't leave the third Titan still alive, so headed off to the desert on day 69, making my way through the cave on Exonia, grabbed the artifact of chaos, and summoned in the bird. Now, this is where things got interesting, as the observant amongst you will have noticed one thing. I don't have very many flyers, so this fight took forever. It genuinely took over an hour before I was finally able to kill it with Lean Charizard, the easiest Titan, taking the most amount of time and death to fight. Yeah, don't come unprepared to a boss fight. I spent the next few days farming resources, as I'd be needing a ton of tranks if I was to be able to shut down Mecha Godzilla so I could replace the batteries to make it my own. When finally on day 75 I spotted my prize out in the wastelands, an incredibly powerful Jaeger that I need if I have any hope to defeat Ghidorah. So I flew out into wastelands to begin firing my tranks. If only I had something like a tech crossbow, this would have been much easier. And finally, as the day was ending, Mecha G was out cold. So I ran up, replaced the batteries, and the boot up sequence began, giving me my very own mecha Godzilla. Now this is the most advanced Jaeger out there. Now I just have to wait for Ghidorah to show his face again. I spent some time learning the controls as I rampaged through the wastelands, even fighting and killing Leatherback in the morning of day 76. I was back. I ended up repainting my tech to show my true colors of green, lime and white in honor of my newfound strength. I flew off to go check on Ghidorah's chosen resting point on day 78, but the three-headed dragon was not there. I did however spot a supply drop coming in from the atmosphere that I knew I wanted, so seeing as the dragon wasn't there, headed off to get that completed. It was going great. Natzilla and skullcrawlers were making this incredibly easy, up until a colossus killed me off my mount. Yeah, no loot for me. So it was day 90 when I heard Ghidorah had returned, and it was time to end this kaiju menace once and for all. So I went off on my mecha G, fighting my way all the way up the corrupted trenches. Everything along the way had to die, step by step, making my way up till eventually I reached the summit, and there was Ghidorah. Come at me, Ghidorah! I stood no chance. Respawning at my base, I felt incredibly defeated. Mecha G was my most powerful weapon I had, but it just got shredded. I would need to go back. That's when I heard what sounded like massive wings flapping. Ghidorah was flying to the city. Oh crap. I rushed back to where Ghidorah once was on my mana to at least recover my equipment, but I desperately needed a plan. All hope to kill Ghidorah and save Earth from the kaiju corruption was gone. I had failed. No. There must be something that I can use. Something heavy duty. Something reliable. Something that doesn't run on pure electricity, as the lightning from Ghidorah just absolutely fries it. I spotted Ghidorah on day 95, absolutely tormenting the city. I could not let this rest. I had a new plan. So for the next couple days, I spent them farming, and it was day 99 as I crafted up and summoned in Cherno Alpha. Fists, check. Legs, check. Running, check. Rocket punch, checkity check. For extra safety, to ensure I was able to bring this dragon down, I threw out a huge army of skullcrawlers. If I was going to do this, I was going to do this right. Now, as we prepare to charge into battle against Ghidorah, this is going to be even more hectic than the Battle of Normandy, which you can try for yourself by downloading Enlisted using the top link in my video description. Make sure you do it today so you get my awesome sign up bonus. Now let's bring down this king of the kaiju. Before finally, as I flew in on my jetpack and charged everyone into battle. The crawlers were swarming Ghidorah as I finally jumped into Cherno Alpha and charged in myself. Punching, rocketing, and biting. Ghidorah was going down one way or the other. That's when I discovered its ultimate weakness. Fire. Down goes the dragon! Hell yeah! Victory felt good. But that's when my communication device started beeping again. Suck it, Quark. I killed Dragon Kaiju. You stand no chance.
Shut up, boy. You really thought that was it?
Wait, what are you talking?
Say hello to Doug for me.
What was he talking about? Oh shit, is that a kaiju lizard? Whoa! Fight everyone! Fight! 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 Well, Cherno Alpha did not stand much chance versus Doug at all. And those skullcrawlers stand no chance either. I am definitely screwed. I will be needing something much stronger. But that is a story for another day. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss future videos.